Hey guys, me and Bob are kind of messing around with some video stuff, testing out some new YouTube stuff we were doing. We recorded this back in July, but we started talking about podcasting, and we're like, you know what? Let's throw this in the can. So without further ado, here's the show.
This is the Fonzarelli Show.
Since we did the video one, and I seen right after you posted it, it got seen quick, which I was surprised.
Yeah.
I was like, but I didn't watch it yet. And usually I'm the only guy watching it. So how is that possible?
I've always put them up on YouTube. I did stuff back in the day, and then I was doing live streaming, and it got too complicated. Sometimes like it would get that stress, which some people do it and it's fun, but I found like I like producing better. And but I still wanted to have the content somewhere. So I wanted to be on YouTube because I thought of the discoverability. But it's a big difference between video and audio, how it performs.
Yes. Yeah, it's a big difference in how it performs, but it's also, it brings up so much more work because we have it to a simple way now. That's cool.
Yeah.
But you could see how like you could get lost in, okay, well, do I want to, just you start like, okay, maybe I'll change this, I'll format this a little different. And it could just never end. It could be you know what I mean? It's an infinite amount of direction and production. Like the first thing is it's both of us on the screen. Do we want to do where you got to go through and pick which shot you're going to do? Because now you're directing, and that's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's not if you just did that, it's not a lot, but it doubles your current load. And then, and it could just keep going. Then where do you stop? So that's why we didn't do it yet, but I do like it as is.
I kind of came a long way from last season. We did some like brainstorming, and we're like, okay, instead of doing the pop, and we did some things with the intro and how the actual show went. We really streamlined everything, and really tell you the truth. And just because I don't know when this is going to come out, we'll just say The Flash was our first time back since season 5. Going back to video. But what I said was we came a long way streamlining the process. So my whole thing was I need to transfer that streamlined process to the YouTube thing, and I did. It took me a little time to set up the templates at first, but now I'm like, okay, now I could do it and it still be, but the directing and the cameras and all that, it doesn't really matter. Cause like I said, I watch, we were talking about different, like Kevin Smith. I went to go check out his podcast and be like, let me see I always listen to his audio wise, but like, let me see what his video looks like. His video looks like ours. You know what I'm saying? And like even Mark Bernardin doesn't even use a microphone. He's just like straight talking to the computer. You know what I mean? But because the content's engaging, Mark Bernardin, no, Mark Bernardin, that's Kevin Smith's friend on Fat Man Beyond. It's his, but they basically do what you and me do. They do it over the computer if they're not like doing it live somewhere. And it's just, but because of the content and everything, but like, even I think like there's different generational thing like TikTok, like certain people consume media a certain way, and it just seems like the show performs, even though we're not doing backflips or anything, the show performs better in video. So if that's better for the show to get that many more people to look at it, then cool. You know what I mean?
And I primarily watch podcasts now. I used to listen to them because I was doing it on the drive. And now that I'm remote or working from home, it's two things. I'm home a lot. I'm not doing the drive, and also now I have the Google TV thing. Google Nest Hub is one of those little TV smart things. So like I'll do a podcast, but I'll always choose the video one if they have it, because I could do it while I'm washing dishes, and I could watch it or I don't have to watch it. If I could leave the room, I could hear it, and I'm not, and I'm okay. But if I can watch it, I will. Or some of them that are real good, I just sit in the living room and watch it like I'm watching TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been actually doing that more, and that's what made me want to do this call. Was I've been doing that more lately than actually like any shows, just because I'm just in between shows at the moment. But I had some really good podcasts I got into. And I'm just like watching podcasts instead of TV now. And I thought that was kind of funny. And us getting into video at the same time, I thought it'd be cool to do a call and talk about what we're doing with it. And then also, like, I found one that I think is the ultimate in terms of, like, if you got different kinds of podcasts, and we both
Mhm.
enjoy the ones where it's like the show business people or comics doing
Yes.
podcasts. That's
Yeah.
what got me into it. It was actually when Conan O'Brien went through that whole drama with the late night shows.
Yes.
I got obsessed with watching interviews with them talking about it, and in watching, because the whole thing was just fascinating to me. And then I learned that Conan O'Brien, or not, I'm sorry, that Louis C.K. was a writer for him. The guy from
Mhm.
Better Call Saul was a writer for him. And
Well, it was
these
right on
guys,
Saturday Night Live, probably for him as well, too. Yeah.
yeah. And then they all tie into Saturday Night Live. And then
Yes.
I started listening to those stories, which is interesting. And then that got me into podcasts, and Mark Maron. It sort of led
Yes.
me in that direction, so it all kind of, so that's how I got into listening to podcasts. But I
Yeah.
found one that trumps them all. Because you could break them into different levels. But the Always Sunny in Philadelphia one, I thought was the king, just because of like you have your ones done by actors, and then you have
Yeah.
your ones done by comics, but then like they created the show. So they're creators of their show, they act on the show, and they write for it. And I kind of got to the end. I wanted to do the whole thing to get there. But I thought I think that is the and it because for me and you, and I said, Joe needs to watch this. So I
Yeah.
think you'll be a big fan because you're watching these guys who are like in character pretty much all the time. So it's just hilarious seeing these guys do it. And they're making a podcast. They're talking about making a podcast. It's a really cool point of view that I think you'd really enjoy. So you got to check it out.
No, I like seeing how different people are doing stuff now, because like I said, I went to check out Kevin Smith's, and then like the one that real quick, my history with podcasting was like really because we lived in Orlando, so we were in like the big hurricanes, whatever it was back in whenever I was first dating my wife. Yeah, those hurricanes.
Yeah, 2005, 2007, that range. There was a bunch of
those
them.
big hurricanes, and it was like all of a sudden you have talk radio on all the time because you want to hear the news. But I started getting into talk radio, and I would listen to like the Monsters, or the local Orlando radio. And then I started just listening to talk radio. And then I heard about like podcast because I go to the gym and want to be on the treadmill. So it was like I wanted something in my ear. And it used to be back in the day, you'd have to like hook up your phone to the computer and download it and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden I got an iPhone, and it's like you just subscribe, and the way the technology comes out. And then Tom and Dan was a big one. They actually guys that actually made a living at a podcast, which few people do. But the guys
weren't Tom and Dan hold on, weren't Tom and Dan,
they were on the Monsters.
They were the radio guys,
radio shows would start podcasting their shows. So you'd hear the Monsters live, but if you missed it, you could get a podcast of their show. But then they spun off and started doing their own podcast, and other podcasters were coming out. But the one that I liked was Rebel Force Radio, because those were like the guys that did the Star Wars one, and they were like, I was just listening to them talk to Star Wars, but they were like, they get in the weeds about Star Wars. Like you and me are like, we have to look at IMDb. They just know everything, which is whatever. To each their own. I actually liked it. We're more casual and approachable. Point being was I would listen to them, and I said, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. But since I'm not as deep into Star Wars, I like to keep it broad. That's why we go Marvel, DC, and more like, we're more approachable. Don't claim that was my vision. Like, we're more approachable. We're not trying to be an expert. We're just two dudes talking about it. You know what I mean?
Only podcasting, you can do that to where you can have something where, because now like you can have something that deep dives into a hobby or a topic that maybe not so many people would be interested in, to where it would get a show. But for a podcast, we can do something where it's just straight critiquing something that you're into. Or like another thing that I listened to is one, I haven't gotten into it yet, but like I'm play guitar. So there's like a great guitar podcast where they're just talking different guitar tones and different this and different that, which would never get on TV. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something that you can put on that. But for a podcast, now all those are out there. And it's cool how now, like, if you have a hobby or something you're interested in, or even a subject like Civil War, you get interested into Civil War. I guarantee you there's 100 podcasts about Civil War where you just hear people talking about it in great depth. So it's cool that that's out there.
Yeah. Working out. different
Yeah,
hobbies and
fitness,
stuff. The one,
awesome.
the one I got hooked on just lately, we were talking about was the Saturday Night Live one. I love with Dana
Yeah.
Carvey and David Spade, and they talk about behind the
Fly
scenes
on the
stuff.
wall.
Fly on the wall
right?
is I got discovered it, and
Yes.
it's like when like they did a Chris Farley tribute episode. It was like a 2-parter. They had like Chris Rock, Adam Sandler call in, all tell Chris Farley stories, and then they'll tell you guys that host it. So Tom Hanks, and it's all real funny things. You mentioned Mark
Those
Maron
are my
before.
favorites. Those kinds. Those are my favorites.
But
I love
Mark-
those.
And you and me always talked about it because I always, you know, if people listen, like the intro was always like, for me, I'm not a TV, you know, I was always like, took the realism out of it when I did the intro, and finally I nailed it, is where I said, I'm just going to do the Mark Maron. And we always talked about me doing it. And I finally did it. And we just like ease into the conversation. It's so abrupt, like, hey, we're pretending we're on a talk show.
Yeah, when you say doing a Mark Maron, it's like do the intro separate instead of doing it on the thing, because we're not radio hosts like talking to a crowd and you know what I mean? It's a podcast.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what I mean?
And it was always hard to come down from that because I'm pretending I'm radio, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, we got to make that abrupt like talk. And now it's like we just start talking, slap the intro on later, and I love it. It's so much more natural. It makes the podcast more natural. It was a lot of playing around to learn to do that, you know.
Yeah. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. I want you to start watching, because like the Mark Maron
I've heard
ones,
that one.
Okay, yeah, that one. And the Fly on the Wall, I did give a shot, and I do like it. I haven't gotten that far into it. Like I listened to like half of one, and then just for whatever reason, I got sidetracked. But I have that on my list, because what's cool about like Conan or Mark Maron, when it's someone in the business interviewing them versus just an interview that you would see on TV, it's so much better now when you have, you know, when Mark Maron's talking to, what Mark Maron's talking to Seinfeld. It's not just like, okay, we got it, you know, it's not just an interviewer talking to him. It's a guy who's also a comic. So like they're talking about it, and he's talking about like, oh, how about when you're backstage and this, you know what I mean? Like they're swapping stories versus the interview being one-sided. So it just makes it that much better. Like, you know, they could, someone who knows what they're talking about, that's asking the questions, you know what I mean? And so Conan's like that, because when he has Saturday Night Live guys on, that's when it's the best and that's what we had this conversation before, and that's when he told me check out Fly on the Wall. But when Conan has Saturday Night Live people on, or Mark Maron too, because he tried to get a job at Saturday Night Live, he didn't get it, but they're in the same circles, so it's a cool they could swap stories about, you know, the writer's room and things like that, you know. So that's always
you
cool.
what would be a good gateway for you. Well, you said you started the Saturday Night Live one, but if you're having a hard time, like the Conan on Fly on the Wall is really good, because Conan was a writer for Saturday Night Live.
But I've had I've watched one where Dana Carvey was on Conan, so it's like you know, for Hans and Franz, that's Dana Carvey on it. The Hans and Franz one was really good, and the ones with not Dana Carvey, but the other guy that's in Hans and Franz, Kevin Nealon. Kevin Nealon's real funny. He's got a YouTube show that's good. Where he's Kevin goes on a hike, or Kevin takes a hike, something like that. I've
seen clips of that. It's kind of like his version of probably Jerry Seinfeld, the Comedians in Cars kind of deal.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Comedians in Cars. That's a good one too. And it's not a podcast, but podcast and YouTube coming together like they are is awesome. I like how that's happening. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing it on it, because it goes together very well. Because we could do it like this, or we could take it to the gym, because, you know, at the gym, you're on the treadmill, you get sick of the same songs over and over. So just something you could listen to that you could just sort of blindly put on and it's awesome. It's like audiobooks are like that too. You know,
I like doing it like mowing the lawn, doing dishes, that kind of stuff, or especially like a long drive. And especially like my son will be in the back playing on a Switch, so I'll just put the speaker so it's all in the front and just be listening to something, you know, while I'm driving and stuff. But that really just helps the time go by. And but like my whole thing is like what we do, because I know, like when I see like Star Wars, like if I see the Flash, And like normally I wait to hear, which doesn't matter because somebody told me make sure you quote your resources, which I do. I do it on the show. It's like, oh, Kevin Smith said this. It'll pop.
Yeah.
But I usually try to avoid the other ones. But when I do, like after I do mine, I want to hear what Kevin Smith had to say about the movie. If it's Star Wars, I want to hear what Rebel Force Radio thought about it, or the list of everything. We did our what was it, Quantumania show, and theirs was out for a while, and I was like, okay, we've done ours. Now I can go listen to theirs. Meanwhile, I've quoted them before too, but just out of courtesy, just in my head, I don't want to start have my own thoughts and stuff. But
it's good, and it's good for. It's good for not like where we got a big reach, but it's good for the community as a whole, and I hear everyone else doing it where they're giving shout outs to other podcasts or interviews. They'll always do it. Like I see Conan, like, oh yeah, I seen on this show, happened. Why not?
The point being was that before I lose that thought was like, if you have enough reach, I'm hoping that there's going to be somebody that's going to be like, and I know there are a couple people that I know that are like friends of friends, but it's like somebody's like, oh, I want to hear what Bob and Joe have to say about Quantumania. You know what I mean? That's even if we're just like on the checklist, you know what I mean? Like the 5 guys they want to hear. You know what I mean? So that's the cool thing. As long as and you and me like talking about this stuff anyway. So what do we,
we're gonna have the conversation anyway. And now that I'm set up, you were set up for it from the first shot at YouTube. You were still set up, and now that I'm doing we didn't. I was slow to getting on board with video calls. My company, everyone. I'm in a small company, and we've all been there, 10, 15 years. So we're from before the time of video calls. So just because video calls became available, none of us seen the reason we had to do them. We're like, why do I got to look at you at your desk when I could just talk to you on the phone? You know what I mean? Because we're just older people. And I remember when video came out on cell phones where you could do the video calls. I think I called you. I was like, oh, I can see you on video. Okay, well, let's go back to just regular phone call. Like, I don't want to do. You just wasn't used to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny because we always thought as kids it'd be so cool if you could do that, but it took us a little bit. It's like the old people thing. It was like, oh, it took us a little bit to switch over. But my company sort of merged with another one, and they're doing video calls, so I just got in the habit of being ready for them at all times. So I was like, all right, well, I got cameras set up.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
TikTok's a crazy one. Because those numbers, like, I don't, I mean, it's like just do wavy line clips and they blow up. And it's like, well, if this many people saw it, if I get half of that to look at the show, I'll be interested to see when we start putting video clips up on TikTok. Because then it's actually like, oh, there's a YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel is not just a wavy line. The YouTube channel is actually a YouTube channel. So just to
I wonder if those numbers
see how that
real.
picks up.
I wonder if those TikTok numbers are real.
I think they are. Now, granted, how long do they stay on the video? Those are the things I don't know. And really, I only started doing it because like another medium, put myself out there, hashtag Star Wars, see, throw the line out, see who bites kind of deal, see what kind of traffic. And it's very random. You'll see one that blows up that's like Star Wars Episode 2 Revisited. Like blows away like the Beatles one. It's very like I couldn't even tell you why some do better than others.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's very weird and random. So I don't quite understanding, but it performs well, and it's another fun thing. I do it at lunch at work on my phone. I'll like pick the clip. Even the program that I just showed you for doing it for video, I think I could do that from my phone. I do my lunch break at work. Just make a clip and slap it out there. Yeah, so
that's cool.
It's
I don't do I don't watch TikTok. But like I'm on someone posted a funny thing about it where I can't remember the meme, but it was something like I don't watch TikTok, but I see it 2 weeks later on Instagram because I'm an adult or something to that effect. But like I'm always 2 weeks behind. So I'm seeing the same things, but I just see them a little later. So I tried and I figured that out because I see stuff and I send it to the kid. She's like, I already seen it, Dad, which was so funny because I was always the first guy to see anything viral. Because I'm always on the computer, and for her now to see something before me, I'm like, oh my God, the tables have turned, But it's the same things going on both. So that'd be interested to see. Are stuff going on I don't know how much you want to say on this or not, but if we do something on there, do you still have it set so it goes on a few different things together when you post something at one place and then also post, like you post on TikTok, it also goes to Instagram or something, or Facebook? Weren't they all tied?
I basically take the TikTok post. Once it's all set up, I take that same post and now I'll slap it on Instagram and stuff. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll download it from TikTok. So on my Instagram, it's almost like an advertisement for that I have a TikTok. You know what I mean? I try to cross promote a little bit, like, oh yeah, check out my TikTok on hey, if you're on Instagram, I have a TikTok or something.
Yeah.
Just try to, see which ones are performing better with what,
I'd be curious to see, just to the point of, I'm curious about the numbers, because the numbers on TikTok were so high. I was like, this doesn't sound right, but
that's why it's weird.
TikTok comes out of China, maybe in China's billions of people, so maybe we got a lot of people from there watching it.
Well, it could also be the attention span of people, because people have made our videos like favorites. Like this guy added this video to favorites. Wow. Okay, but I think what it is it's certain people like to consume, like they just want the 20-second clip or whatever it is. They just want to hear that thing. Now, who bites? So I would scroll by and I would just keep seeing these it was Mind Pump. That's the new workout one I'm on lately. It's a bunch of personal trainers, but I just would keep seeing them. I kept seeing them. I'd swipe up. I'd see him again. I'd listen to the one thing he said. So I'd go, wait a minute. Why not check these guys out and find? And it took me a lot of passing by them, because I would actually consume the little bit of wisdom they said, where he said and finally I was like, oh, now I subscribe to them and listen to them. But that's the kind of thing I do. It's like, okay, if somebody thinks we made a poignant point here, like, oh, you know what? I really like what these guys say. Every time I swipe by, I see the 2-second thing. Maybe I'll go watch.
Maybe they wouldn't have found us. Maybe they wouldn't have found us Googling, because we would be so many pages back. Whereas if it just flies by you one time, it'll get grabbed, which is awesome, because it takes out, what's cool about YouTube and podcasts and TikTok and all these things. Like when they first came out, and this is something I'll do. I pulled Dennis on Always Sunny. The Always Sunny podcast is something he said. I don't know the actor's name, but the guy that plays Dennis, and I agreed with him fully. Where when these things first came out, it seemed like, all right, this was just what was it? He said like it was a shortcut to getting famous, or it was like a cheating way to get there. And he sort of resented it type deal. It was like, or a fluke. It didn't seem like a real way to get in. But now that it's gotten better, and also it's, just growing up and accepting things, you're seeing like, no, this is actually more fair, because now this takes it. You don't have to deal with like production companies. You don't have to, get agents, and you could just make something and put it out there on your own. And if it's got something, it gets there. You know what I mean? It evens the playing field. Like now you get in there, we're on the same list. We're on somebody's favorites with Kevin Smith's show. We are nowhere near the level that Kevin Smith is.
But we're in somebody's playlist, their library. We're in somebody's kind of thing. That's the cool thing. It's like, somebody, and guys I listen to big guys and little guys, and whatever clicks, something's going to click with you. The way I discovered the Star Wars one, Rebel Force Radio, was just random, that I came out of the theater and I was like, somebody's got to be talking about this. I just search Star Wars and you listen to one, like, this guy, you listen to one, and then you find the one you like. You're like, okay, I can listen to these, that's and that's how it happens. But it's you're not waiting to get signed to get a show. You can make a show, you can make entertainment. So it's like, are you having fun doing it, and are you proud of it? And is it like, is it worth your time? And I think the way I streamlined the process now, it's like, okay, we do it. It's fun. It's easy to put out, and just whatever. Hopefully somebody likes it,
Yeah.
So
for sure. And we're not doing it's cool too, like for creators, like short video people, like people are making like quick little videos and things like that. They could get something out there into the world without having to get it past, whatever channel, get it onto a channel. You can just put it out there, and it could get big.
Yeah, if you do a 360 on a skateboard, you know what I'm saying? You can videotape it and just get 1,000
Yeah.
views, and it's like, okay, hey, look how many people saw this cool trick I did. Things like that. That's pretty neat.
What about video games? I play the
Twitch
one
and
car
stuff?
game. Yeah, I play the Rocket League, which is it's up there with like Fortnite, I think, in terms of how famous it is. Maybe it's up there that high, but I'm pretty sure it is. It's pretty famous or somewhat famous. So I play it. Okay, but my friend's kid is like just a wizard, like I was back in the day with Tony Hawk. So my friend's telling his kid, like, you could go on Twitch, and it's funny to tell you. It used to be you'd want him not to do that, but he's like, hey, you're good enough that you could put this on Twitch, and you could possibly, make money doing it. Like if the kid could just, if he was good at, if he could talk through it, he's still very young. So give him a little bit more time. If he's someone who you could listen to, and he could, it was entertaining enough because he plays well enough to do it. Like he could actually make money doing it.
Yeah, I try to do it with my son, but the processing involved with that, like my laptop just freezes. What I'm saying? Like I don't have a big rig.
Video. Yeah, it's a lot to do the game, and you would need I wouldn't be able to do it with my setup even. If Tony, back in the day when I was playing Tony Hawk on PlayStation 1, and then
you could have
PlayStation 2, I could have totally. At first I was thinking with that, like, I think I could have done tournaments and won money if it was online like it is now. I think I was that good. And I tried playing it again. I cannot even get close to where I was. But if I put a lot of time into it, it'd be like Matrix when he's trying to get it back, the newest Matrix. Did you see the newest Matrix? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that'd be me like trying to get it back. Even if I couldn't have done tournaments and won those, like even if it turns, because I'm sure there were kids way better than I was, but I didn't know anyone that was close to how good I was.
And just to describe it for the audience, it would be like Bob would play Tony Hawk and people would gather around to watch him. It was like watching the Matrix. It was like watching Neo. Like you were just like, wow, look him go. It's just nobody was even wanting their turn. We all just watch Bob play Tony Hawk.
Yeah. My buddy's girlfriend said, she goes, guys, could you just she goes, watching you guys play, I can't watch you guys play video games, but watching Bob play, it's like watching it's like watching Sports Center or something, like one of those things. Oh, but so I might not have been level to do the tournaments, but I definitely was good enough where Twitch, I could have been on there.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also we're on your podcast app. So we're on your Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and all the rest. And of course, check us out at bunzarelli.com, and we'll see you guys.